Hello, and thanks for tuning in. As always, I'm Reverend JR, and today we're going to take a look at this.
Have you ever heard the old saying that a conservative is just a liberal who got mugged?
I had not heard that one until you just said it, but I'm glad to see that Dennis Prager is still letting women teach, and not following the Christianity that he claims America was founded upon. Good job being liberal, Dennis Prager, and not being conservative, but arguing how conservatism is better, because reasons.
Well, I got mugged, to the tune of $60,000 a year.
Oh yeah? You mean a college walked up to you and forced you to sign up for it? And didn't show you the financial terms? And you didn't sign for the student loans? And it just happened out of nowhere? And they held you at gunpoint or knife point to do it? I hope you filed a police report against this college that made you join against your will and spend your money against your will.
It's called tuition.
Help! I need victim points. I'm being oppressed. Give me your victim status and feel sorry for me because I made life choices that I don't like. That's what you sound like right now. Tuition is not robbery. Next time, don't go to a school that charges you $60,000 a year for a degree that is likely useless. I forget, are you one of the ones we discussed before who didn't actually get the degree? Or had it in, like, gender studies or something? What do you expect when you spend almost $250,000 on a degree that has no real-world applications? Like, even an English major can go teach English and stuff. But what are you gonna do with your particular breed of liberal arts degree? What form of employment did you intend to seek with the degree you intended to receive? I'm curious. You see, I went to college because I had some expectation that my degree would allow me to get a better job in a field related to it. I didn't just go for kicks and giggles. So, I'm wanting to know, what job did you foresee yourself getting with whatever degree you tried to get?
Like everyone who cons themselves into attending a liberal arts college.
No, you're wrong. Most people do not con themselves into going to a liberal arts college. Liberal arts includes things like education, mathematics, being a lawyer, and so on. You could have gone for any of those, and then gone on to get a job in any of those respected fields. Hell, I think even engineering is a liberal art. So, no, most people don't con themselves into it. Most people pick one because they want to go into the field that's represented by that degree. It's a choice. You have to take some personal responsibility. It's not the world's fault if you take a degree that has no jobs associated with it and you failed to look at the job market or change majors at least after the first year when you realize that maybe there weren't any jobs. Especially if you've got student loans at that level. You could have even gone to a less expensive liberal arts college and gotten a degree as a welder or something, or even as a clerical assistant, but you didn't.
I was captivated by the idea of changing the world.
Yup, you're a special snowflake and you're the first person to ever feel that way. No one who doesn't have a liberal arts degree has never, ever wanted to change the world, right? The only way you can change the world is if you have a liberal arts degree and you're deluded and jaded, right?
I would immerse myself in a diverse pool of academic thought, theory, and action. Well, it didn't quite work out that way.
If you manage to go to a liberal arts degree for more than a couple years, even more than a couple months, and you don't figure out how to immerse yourself in diverse ideas, knowledge, culture, and so on, that is absolutely no one's fault but your own. I went to a rural technical college, and I still hung out with foreign students who spoke different languages, thought different ways about how the world worked, and had completely different disciplines to my own. If you can't do the same at a large liberal arts college, that's your fault. I mean, for Pete's sake, I even went to the Bahamas for a quarter, because that was part of our study abroad requirement. And you're telling me your liberal arts college didn't have anything at all like this? I find you very hard to believe.
Over the course of 4 years, I was transformed from a plucky, free-thinking, free spirit into a cranky, get-off-my-lawn conservative.
Yup, you were definitely a special snowflake, and now you're less of a special snowflake and that's why you're engaging in special pleading like a snowflake, and somehow Dennis Prager thinks it's fit to put on a video about how paying for college is bad. I wonder if Dennis thinks the college should be free. Damn it, Dennis, are you a liberal or a conservative? Because you certainly seem very conservative in most other respects, but now you're complaining that a private university that's run like a business is liberal. And Prager lets you put the video on his page and edited it for you and everything else. But just like my last video I responded to, the world's upside down and topsy-turvy.
Whee! The process started not long after I arrived at my elite East Coast school.
Well, then maybe you should have said no right then and there, and saved yourself, $250,000 that you wouldn't have to pay back later, because then you wouldn't need the student loans, because then you wouldn't have the degree that isn't going to make you any money anyway, except that it is, because now you're complaining about it on Prager's page, and he's paying you to complain about it, presumably. Realistically, your degree actually did get you a job, if he's paying you for this. So, how about that?
I thought I was there to expand my knowledge of the world, to debate the great ideas. I soon realized, however, that my professors had something else in mind.
Depends on what kind of degree you're going for as to what kind of debates you will be engaged in. But yes, generally, you will have philosophy courses and science courses and all the other courses related to the degree, and even a great many that aren't if it's a good liberal arts college and you're paying that much for it. But what do I know? I'm just a dragonfly. A dragonfly who's curious what degree you actually went for and what electives you elected not to take.
Invariably, each class followed the same monotonous ritual.
Well, yes, for some people, the idea of a schedule is monotonous. For some people, the idea of going to class, being taught something, and then getting quizzed on what you were supposed to learn is monotonous. The majority of college learning is not like you see in the movies. The majority of college learning is going in, the teacher giving you a bunch of information, maybe you'll do some experimentation, you'll get some hands-on practice, and then you'll go out and do the thing. The majority of college learning is not going in, questioning every single thing you're told, having great and wonderful and fantastical debates, and then going out into the world a special snowflake more. No, lawyers go to liberal arts college to learn how to be a lawyer, not to argue why Plato's tripartite was wrong. If you want debate, the internet exists, and here we are. But again, the major purpose of a college is to educate. College is not designed to be your sounding board. It's designed for you to go and learn things. And the majority of learning requires listening, taking notes, and going over and over again and again the material until it is ingrained so thoroughly in your head that even dementia will not make you forget it. The secondary function of a college is to allow the open discourse of things in a proper setting. Your lectures are not the place for those. Until you understand that, you're going to have a very hard life.
Identify a problem, say racism, blow it up beyond all proportion, blame the problem on the white majority culture, and then offer an unworkable solution, usually involving the government.
Even for a video from Prager, this is incredibly disingenuous. The majority of your classes for your graduate degree are not going to be the majority of classes that you take. You're still going to have mathematics and classical literature and philosophy and so on. And even though I may disagree with a gender studies or feminist kind of degree, there is still a place for those kinds of jobs. Whether it is cultural anthropology or comparative cultural studies or whatever. Yes, there may be a few professors who are a bit too gung-ho about it, but even the basic course setup for most of those degrees at most of the accredited universities are not that straightforward and blatantly holding an agenda. They are demonstrating how things have been historically and why they may or may not be that way now. Is it possible that some go a little overboard? Yes. Is it fair to say that liberal arts in general is like this? No. It is very, very incorrect to conflate a gender studies degree with the whole of the liberal arts. And Prager should know better than this, and so should you. I find this one inexcusable. Also, it's really funny to hear them complaining about one agenda that doesn't agree with them when they're constantly putting forward almost the polar opposite agenda in the thing they claim is a university called Prager. Just keep that in mind. Again, I'm not advocating for or against women's studies degrees or whatever. I'm just saying this is not a fair comparison of them, even though I don't like them.
Everywhere I turned, I saw political correctness. At first, I just rolled with it. Then I got annoyed. Then it started to tick me off.
I agree that political correctness can be taken to an illogical extreme, but when you're talking about lectures at a college or university, which is a public place, I agree that there should sometimes be some forms of what you might call censorship to help facilitate the ease of learning. Now, on campus and other places, no. I agree. Sometimes it's taken a bit far. I should be able to use whatever words I want regardless of my skin color, or safe spaces, or how much it might offend someone. But within the lectures and courses that are directly related to the degrees, that's a different question.
I was being brainwashed, indoctrinated, and I was paying for the privilege with borrowed money.
Again, if you didn't want to be exposed to the idea, intellectually, that there have been in the past actual patriarchal things, or that they still exist in some countries, although not this one, then maybe you shouldn't have taken a degree that focuses specifically on those things. Just because you disagree with the idea that most Islamic states have a patriarchal system doesn't mean that they don't have them. And protesting a lecturer telling you about these things doesn't change the fact that women still can't drive by themselves in Saudi Arabia. Like, here in America, we have it pretty good. You're even allowed to be on here and teach me things and drive your own car and not cover your skin. But there are places in the world where that doesn't happen. And even 100 years ago here, you wouldn't have been able to vote. And again, I agree that sometimes it's taken overboard. But that doesn't mean there isn't a historical, cultural, or social anthropological reason behind the courses being there in the first place. Again, you have all the rights I do today, but it wasn't so long ago that you didn't. Like, yes, I agree that the wage gap is stupid, because it's an earnings gap, and I don't have any way to reliably tell what they're actually teaching in those courses, because a lot of the people who take them get caught up in the rhetoric, rather than the actual what's right before them. It's not my fault that sexual dimorphism exists, and you're taking coursework that tries to deny the fact that sexual dimorphism exists. It's not my fault you signed up for that, and it's not the college's fault you gave them a demand for that.
Almost every speaker who came to campus was a leftist journalist, a leftist activist, or a leftist professor from another leftist school.
You know, this prompted me to go ahead and look at Prager's page and try to find information on her. Under their course presenters, you will find Jay Stevens has written for Vice, among other things, and of the 12 or so articles she's written for Vice, I can't find the one where it says which college she went to. Maybe I simply overlooked it, maybe it's not there, but I highly doubt that's the only kind of speakers they were having, considering even Milo has gone to a lot of these liberal arts colleges, as well as many others who are, not liberal. So with that in mind, citation needed. Maybe you just selectively chose against any speakers while you were there who did not share your opinion, or you simply seeked them out because they were leftist and you failed to notice all the other speakers or courses that were being presented to you. Confirmation bias is a bitch, isn't it?
The ones who weren't leftists were just weird.
Well, shit on a shingle, but that turned around fast.
One time, I attended a film lecture given by a very skilled paraplegic adult film star who showed us some of her art.
And we have absolutely no context. Was it part of your core curriculum? Was it just someone who wanted to speak? Was it in regards to how disabled people can use this sort of thing for therapy? Was it related to how disabled people are represented in media? I mean, I tried searching all the logical terms and I couldn't find it. So that means one of two things. Do you happen to have the person's name? Do you happen to have the course it was presented under? Or even in what context it was given? Just curious.
Another time, I went to a performance given by a woman who engaged in autoeroticism behind a curtain.
And again, was this a performance piece? Was it part of your core curriculum? Was it an elective? Was it just a show that the college was allowing to be put on? You know, a lot of times, colleges have speakers who are completely unrelated to anything other than the fact that they are simply presenting in a space that the college provides. They're sometimes called performers, actors, comedians. They sometimes put on shows or skits or entertainment. And we have no way of telling if this was part of your core classwork or not.
I couldn't deal with it. The PC culture, the mono-thinking, the weirdness. I needed some way to...
So instead of changing your degree, dropping out, or doing anything else, you decided to finish your degree so that you could later complain about getting a degree in some kind of safe space? Okay. You know, I actually know someone who's kind of like you. They went to college to start an engineering degree, and then figured out that engineering was not very hands-on and was a lot of math. And then after the first semester or two, they decided they weren't going to do that anymore, and they switched over to something else that was actually more interesting to them. You know, you could have done the same, right?
So I got high almost every day.
All right. Let me make sure I got this right. Part of becoming a conservative is getting high every day to deal with the fact that you are frighteningly antisocial or something. Bravo! Conservatism at its finest.
Parenthetically, most of the worst stoners I knew are now working in finance or politics. In fact, this is what made me first realize that I was a fan of limited government.
Colleges shouldn't be allowed to just teach whatever courses they want because my feels. That's why there should be, like, rules against it, so I don't get mugged. But, like, small government, man, we don't need anybody to make those rules. We'll just, wait, what was I talking about again? I think I had too much of the weed.
I do not trust these goofs to make policy.
Like, it's a really good thing I told you I was a stoner, so you know you shouldn't trust me either. Holy logic, Batman. I think we found a plot hole.
Their power must be constrained.
So we gotta constrain government by making sure there's no laws in place to make sure that colleges don't mug you. Because that would give the government too much power if they had oversight over capitalism. Because... feels, I guess? I honestly do not understand. And perhaps I never will.
This brings me to another black hole in the college experience. Useless majors, the only thing more pervasive than marijuana and irresponsible future leaders.
Hey guys, I used to do the weed, and now I want to try to tell you how things should be by making my own rules and stuff. But when other people do it, it's really bad, so that's why you shouldn't be doing it. And special pleading, give me what I want. Special pleading. That's all I'm hearing.
I'm not being judgmental here. I have a degree in film and media studies and political science.
Suddenly, we might understand why there would have been those two instances she brought up earlier. I thought she was in a different kind of degree because I'm watching most of this as I'm going. But if you're a film studies major, and adult films are a kind of film, and you're a political sciences major, and you happen to be engaged in political science, then maybe I understand how those two other things actually correlate to your degree, even if you don't.
Why did I choose them? They're subjects I like talking about. I was captivated by the idea of changing the world.
Well, I think I found your problem. Those are two different things.
Practical, right? But I wasn't alone. Most of my peers also chose to spend their student loan money on subjects better learned on YouTube or Turner Classic Movies.
You mean money that was lent to them in the hopes that they would get a job and pay it back in the field that's related to it? You do know what a loan is, right? If you're going to take out a $250,000 loan on something, don't you think you ought to put more than 5 or 10 minutes into seeing what it's all about? And you just did two, like, fallacies by association there. The first one, well, everyone's doing it, so it's the bandwagon fallacy, so dur. And the second one is, no, there are still reasons you go to college to learn about these things. Like, there's a reason these degrees are set up the way they are. And your inability to comprehend this, again, I don't think is the fault of the college. That is, however, one of the best reasons I've ever heard for why we should actually have an SAT for college loans. Like, the government should be bigger, and it should actually have a test, just like for going to college, to see if you actually know what the degree you're going into intends to teach you and how you intend to use it. Maybe we should have a practicality exam before we give someone $250,000 for a 4-year degree. Maybe.
By the time graduation approached, none of us had developed any actual job skills.
Well, it's a good thing you didn't go into it because you wanted job skills then, isn't it? You went into it because you like talking about it and because you want to change the world. You have admitted twice there that you haven't gone in there to learn anything about doing a job. Maybe get your priorities straight next time, and maybe tell your peers to do the same.
And people want to raise taxes to pay for free college for everyone? Are you kidding me? No, just no.
You know, that's also an excellent argument against paying for high school, right? That's something we didn't used to do. I mean, you're telling me it's better that you were allowed to go and waste about $250,000 that you got on a loan that wasn't well regulated to do something you actually had no clue about, to develop skills that you were never going to use, all because you don't want the government involved so much. You'd much rather people just keep getting mugged, as you call it, rather than actually letting the government determine, let's say via testing, like we do with SATs and ACTs and whatever already, you know, the college entrance exams. Why shouldn't the government have some say in that? You're arguing both sides of the issue here. You're saying the free market kind of screwed you, but the free market is the only way it should be done, and you don't see the problem with this. Should we also force your parents to use the free market to decide what elementary school you went to? Because remember, I don't have children, but I still pay the school tax. And presumably, if you have children, they're going to use the schools that my taxes pay for. So why not go a step further, just like we did with high school? Remember, high school is not a requirement either. You don't have to get a GED. You do not have to go past 8th grade, legally. But for some reason, you're okay paying for high school, which is a non-specialized form of education that everyone should be entitled to and get. But you're not for the extra 2 years that might come after it, that would allow you to get a generalized college degree in the same fashion. I don't understand this disconnect that people have. Maybe it's because the 50 or 60 years or so of actually getting 99% of adults literate has made us numb to the fact that 50 years ago, roughly half of all adults in America were not literate.
I'd only give a free education to a smart kid who promised to get a degree in whatever the exact opposite of my degree is.
Oh, so that is exactly what you're arguing. People who are not smart should not have a high school education. Do you see why that's fucking stupid?
And that degree didn't come cheap.
Well, neither did your high school education, but I don't see you bitching about how much the taxpayers paid for that. You're free to go ahead and give back all that money to the state if you feel like it, and ask that it be redistributed to all the taxpayers who helped fund it. Because you don't seem very smart to me.
I took on tens of thousands of dollars of debt, but never spent a minute learning how to manage it.
Well, that's your own fault. I learned in 5th grade how to balance a checkbook in public school. If you didn't pay attention or take your own initiative to learn how $250,000 is going to affect your finances, that's no longer anyone's fault but your own. Maybe you were too busy getting high and being preoccupied with, like, all this other shit that you've been talking about. Maybe. Or maybe you're still just a special snowflake who doesn't understand how the world works, because you get too easily offended by things you disagree with. That you can't spend time to take responsibility for your own actions and learn how to balance your own damn budget.
No such classes were even offered.
Now this is where I think you might just be lying. Even the college I went to, which was a basic kind of technical college, had financial literacy classes, even if they didn't call them that. They had, budgeting basics or real-life practical courses on how to manage money. In fact, even in the freshman orientation kind of stuff, they'll say, here's the person you can talk to if you don't know how to balance your checkbook or so on. Again, I call bullshit. What college did you go to?
I might have actually learned something useful if they had been. I didn't learn about taxes either, other than that the rich should pay their fair share.
Right. The main reason they don't go in depth on taxes for a political science or film studies major is because most people have had a job before they go to college and understand how taxes work. Now granted, most people may only have a basic understanding of it, but unless you're going into macroeconomics or something, you really don't need to understand much more of it than that. Like, yes, everyone should pay their fair share, and the most rich people in the country are paying relatively the least amount of taxes they have done so in the past 70 years or so. But that's not a discussion for here. You're in political sciences. What taxes other people pay has no bearing on how you file your taxes. And again, they probably did have the courses and you just didn't take them because they're generally electives, or even free courses offered just by the college as presentations and as advisors who can help you with it, rather than formal courses even in some cases. But again, I call bullshit.
It was only after college, when I was lucky enough to get my first job.
How do you not get your first job until after college? I mowed lawns, delivered newspapers, worked in fast food, and worked in a nursing home kitchen, and worked in a cheese house, among other jobs, all before I graduated high school. It's not my fault that you didn't go out and try to find jobs like that. Sorry, it's not my fault you lack life skills because you weren't held to the same standard as I am. Sorry, I guess?
That I discovered the truth. The government takes away a lot of your money.
And as a person who has been paying taxes into the system since I was 15 and a half, maybe? I forget when I started delivering papers. I gotta say, I have no sympathy for you. My taxes go to support most of the programs also, and I think that most of the programs should be there. I think there is some, waste, but we also pay a lot less in taxes as a percentage of our income than our parents and grandparents ever did. And the fact that we pay less is why a lot of the things are crap now, when they weren't back then. It's a lot more complicated than that, and you didn't take a macroeconomics degree, so we don't need to go there. I still don't understand how you didn't have a job in high school. Like, I had to have one of those if I wanted to do absolutely anything in high school, like drive my car, because I had to pay for my own gas.
Frankly, it's shocking. And that's not even counting the mandatory $400 a month deduction for my student loans.
And like I say, it's a good thing I was paying taxes a good 6 years before you, so that I could help fund part of that high school education you got when I was still in high school. It's a good thing you also don't have a mandatory money taken out of your check to pay for someone else's high school, right? You are a self-entitled brat.
I'll probably have that albatross around my neck for the rest of my life.
Really? You're saying that you are as oppressed as the ancient mariner whom the gods saw fit to punish? No, I don't think you understand that reference. But I do think you feel that you have been wronged as severely as him. Rhyme of the ancient mariner? More like rhyme of the self-entitled, self-interested prick.
Really, I can't believe my peers and I spent so much time shaming conservatives for wanting to lower taxes.
And again, you show a lack of knowledge between the upper, middle, and lower classes because you don't understand which one you were actually a part of.
A past version of myself would call this desire to keep what I earn selfish. The current, cheerfully realistic version of me knows this. I can spend my money much better than the politically correct stoners who are running the government can.
You hear that? She signed up for a mugging, but she thinks she's better than the government on funding things. She doesn't even know how to balance a checkbook by her own admission, and she thinks she knows better how to spend her money than you do. I'll be looking forward for that check she writes when she gives up her GED and pays for her own. But anyway, that's going to be it, because this has really annoyed me, and it's gone on for way too long. So if you enjoyed that, click the thumbs up. If you didn't, click the thumbs down. This is all topsy-turvy. Switch those two around, I don't care. Go ahead and check out my links in the description below. You can see my blog, which I haven't written on for a while. You can check out my Patreon if you have a couple bucks laying around and want to give me some of your hard-earned money, but I won't swindle you out of it or mug you for it, like the colleges apparently do, or something, I don't fucking know. And anyway, as always, this has been Reverend JR, signing off.